Alrighty, it's morning. Yeah, good morning, YouTube. This is Hajim Zero here, back with another quick movie review. Hold on one second, let me grab this controller. And this is the final movie in the final Batman movie in Nolan's trilogy. Um, this is The Dark Knight Rises, and it stars again, like with the last one, what I said, the main three folks behind the scenes of the movie. It's the same ones: Hans Zimmer, Christopher Nolan, John Nolan, David S.Goyer, and returning cast is Christian Bale, Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Cillian Murphy, and I feel like Gary Oldman, and the newcomers Tom Hardy and Hathaway. What's his name? Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, that guy on the screen. I drew a blank on his name. And I can't remember the chick that plays Miranda Tate slash Talia al Ghul. Wink, wink. Hell, spoiler. But like what I said with all the themes of the Dark Knight films, this one deals with pain, and also it goes back to the classic trope of doing movies and trilogies. The third one always goes full circle back to the first story and movie that we've seen, and even Christopher Nolan, at a slight point, he has said, when he did these movies, I think it was always intended to be a trilogy. It was a true beginning, middle, and end. It was really to show, what it takes to be a hero and the politics that surround it. And of course, like I said, ironically, what's happening right now with police corruption. And the funny thing is, with this film, it really goes to show the different types of villains as well as people who have different ideologies, that come around. I really wanted to see, what if Heath Ledger, of course, was still alive, but the Joker was in this film. Yeah, how the dynamic would have been between the two. Because if you really think about it, one of the indirect plans that Bane had, Joker kind of somewhat was trying to seed out and do, except that Bane had tackled it, much more tactful, you know, um, perspective. There we go. And just how the way this movie was shot, and not that many special effects. I think with all the movies there really were no heavy CG effects, and there was no second unit production shot on it too. So like a lot of the stuff you see is real, like that opening shot with the CIA and Bane hiding amongst the henchmen. That was actually done using real life stunts. Everything from the men jumping on the plane, to the thing being shot off, and all those wide shots. The only CG shots they did, I think it was in the Bat airplane. Anything else where safety could have been a factor, but that's one of the reasons why this movie, or Nolan's trilogy, had a lot of weight and praise, because really with all the Batman Nolan movies, what one person had actually said is like, it seemed more like it was a story that was true from the perspective if Gotham really was a real place, and it's the people telling the story of who Batman is, and even with this character, it was based on some realism and reality, mainly with the villains. And of course, it's a mix of New York and Chicago, which has a lot of heavy police corruption. And I'm very curious to see if another major event happens in our country, will some shit like this happen? Because kind of had it already with all the riots in the city, except the military didn't come in and keep a whole city hostage. It's just people going buck wild. But I really did enjoy this film. I did like the fight scenes in this between Tom Hardy and Christian Bale. And two of the best fights, of course, was the one in the sewer before they throw him in the hole, and it made it very, very intimidating. Nolan really hit the psychological point of not putting any music. And then on that final confrontation, you see how the whole fight dynamic had flipped, and how strong and crazed Bane really was. And also going back with the character of Bane, it was kind of funny because it was the same scenario a little bit with Heath Ledger. The thing is, it wasn't that much tripping about, Tom Hardy being Bane. Even though some people did try to do it because in the comics, Bane is Mexican, he's not white. But there was some other aesthetics they did keep true to the character. He did grow up in a prison, and also Bane was very smart. He was technically Batman, but a bad guy. He was just as physically intimidating as well he was smart. And even I think even with or without the venom. But that was another thing I liked about it. Personally, I would have given him a little bit of the character piece of him having the venom, but not over exaggerated like they did in the comic book. It could have been a little bit to really make him very, very scary, and not really. It's kind of like with the Professor Hulk, except it's a bad guy, from Avengers Endgame and Marvel Comics and their character and that character. Uh, but really, with this film, like I said, a lot of things they did a very good job of, not really giving characters, their comic book name. Selena Kyle was another one, which is Catwoman. And people love to nitpick the fact that she didn't have the whip, but I think everything else was perfect with her, even with her gear that she had on. They did a lot of, I wouldn't say, I don't think it's optical illusion, but, her having the cat ears, but it was really the whole goggles. And when she wasn't wearing it, she had propped it up. And she was a very smart, con artist in this. And another thing I like to point out about Nolan, when he introduces characters, either villains or good guys, he does it in a way that does move the plot of the film. So, for example, in the beginning of this film, when Bruce catches, Selena stealing, the necklace, it was an introduction to her, but also what she was stealing wasn't just the pearls, it was to get his fingerprints, which is a plot point in the movie right around the beginning of the second act when, she sold Bruce Wayne's prints to the stock, or I think it was to the stock, indirectly financially, birding him, and it was an indication that Bane already knew who he was. But I know what point I was gonna go back to. It was the Bane, the whole not really much of comparison between Bane and Joker and Heath Ledger and all that. What people were tripping about the most was Bane's appearance. Some people said that he looked like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, but like I said in the last video, I didn't at all, judge it because I knew how good of a job Nolan did with The Dark Knight. And I remember a few of my comic book friends, acquaintances. One of them was tripping in particular because he wanted the comic book correct adaptation, but after looking at the movie now, it made sense for him to go more realistic. And again, he made Bane threatening. Just, he made him pretty much who he was in the comic. It just sucked that he was a bodyguard, but he wasn't stupid either. And I don't know how he feels about it now because looking at the film and going back to it now, versus how good most superhero films do go political and they have real world context, I think his mind had possibly changed. And, me and him really aren't that cool anymore. I'm not going to ask him, but that's just another funny comparison. People weren't tripping about Tom Hardy being cast. It was more heavy on how accurate it was from the book to screen. And to be honest, sometimes depending on what kind of story you're telling, you can get away with it. Sometimes you can't. If you're trying to tell a more realistic superhero film, some elements that make it too comic booky and too comedic, or it's just a little bit too much, you're gonna have to leave on the writing table, and many, forms of media have done that. Even the MCU, at some point, they didn't go all out with certain things because they knew it wouldn't work, and plus they wanted to tell a different story anyway. They know that, and even amongst the audience, we don't want to see the same shit over and over and over again, so that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Looking and watching all three of these films, like I said, coincidentally, during this whole pandemic that's happening right now with the riots, it's kind of funny how all three elements of, fear, pain, and chaos really, really has the context of what's going on right now. And again, we can talk about it in the comment box. It's just funny how coincidentally I decided to watch these movies when it was happening. Because I haven't been doing that. This is like the first time in a couple of months, I believe, I started to do review versus the uploading, because I do somewhat indirectly have a set schedule. Like me recording this right now, it's not going to be uploaded possibly until July, and it's now June. And those other two that I just recorded previously, I recorded at the ending days of May. But that's just me babbling on. The next film I'm going to do is Wanted. Can't wait to do that one. I have a funny feeling where I really wanted to be more cheerful, and I think it will without any serious context. But I will talk to you guys later. Peace.